Hello there, very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin with me, Shayan Silva. And in the studio this evening we have a visiting news anchor from Nepal, Priyanka.
Thank you, Shayan. And now let's take a look at the headlines.
Over 100 kilograms of heroin discovered in a container brought down from Karachi, 3 arrested. I am aware of all information on the narcotics racket in Kolonava, a statement from Hirunika Premachandra. Parliamentarian Mrinal Wickremesinghe wanted in connection with the assault of a Grana Niladhari officer on the run. Strike action at general and teaching hospitals, patients inconvenienced. Newsfirst tours Uber to inquire into the people's problems. Quote, it was a mistake to support the 18th Amendment, unquote, the regrets of the Communist Party. On to your stories in detail now. Over 100 kilograms of heroin have been discovered from a container that arrived from Karachi, Pakistan, which was being held at the customs container yard in Orgodawata. According to the Sri Lanka Customs Department, the haul of heroin is worth over 700 million rupees. The stock of heroin was hidden inside 3 molding machines that arrived from Karachi, Pakistan on the 6th of this month. 3 suspects, including an importer from Colombo, and 2 clearing agents have been arrested in connection with the discovery.
Last week we have received a container to be examined here in the HRC cargo unit. So we examined the container. We found that there's a used molding machines. So then on suspicion we referred those 2-3 machines to our brother same custom narcotic branch. With those officers, today we have examined that container. So we found inside there some heroin packets packeted in 1 kilo. So we are conducting our investigation. So far we are not finished the investigation. Already we have 3 suspects. That means one is the importer and the other is 2 wharf clerk who came to clear these goods.
After the story on the discovery of the haul of heroin was aired at 7 p.m. on our sister channel Sirsa TV, UPFA Western Provincial Councillor Hirunika Premachandra spoke to Newsfirst.
I'm speaking after watching the 7 o'clock news on Sirsa TV. I'm saddened. 100 kilograms is an amount which cannot be even imagined. Who are they trying to destroy? They are trying to destroy the youth of this country. Who imports and distributes drugs in the country? I said from the very beginning that the people involved in my father's murder are also involved in this. I also said that my father was killed because he spoke out against drugs. We are sad that they are not taking any steps in this regard. We respectfully call on the government and the President to look into this. I'm saying this with responsibility. We have proof as to who is distributing drugs in Kolonava and who they have direct ties to. The police should take steps to look into this. The President is someone who speaks for the welfare of the youth. We believe that he will inform the police and take the necessary action in this regard.
On to another story that made the headlines tonight now. The police say that UPFA Kurunegala District Parliamentarian Nirmal Vijayasinghe, who assaulted a Grama Niladhari officer, is on the run. Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohana says that the suspect MP will be arrested.
The Grama Niladhari in question had been assaulted while he attempted to explain the legalese to a group of persons who were cutting down a jack tree without a permit. The assault had taken place the day before yesterday on the Kurunegala Vidigama road in Ambakote. The victim, who is the Grama Niladhari of Division 617 Ambakote, alleged that MP Nirmal Vijayasinghe had arrived at the scene and attacked him. The Grama Niladhari was treated at the Kurunegala Teaching Hospital over 2 days and was discharged this morning. Meanwhile, 97 Grama Niladharis from 113 divisions have taken a collective decision to not carry out duties in order to focus public attention on the failure to enforce the law against MP Nirmal Vijayasinghe in the case of this assault. The Grama Niladharis arrived in Vidigama today, where they staged a silent protest.
48 hours have passed and the MP has not turned himself in, and neither have the police been able to arrest him and produce him in court. This person falls under the fundamental law in the country, and so we ask that the law be enforced and necessary action be taken.
Representatives of the Sri Lanka Grama Davis Association convened a media briefing in Kandy today where they call for the law to be enforced against the Politico.
The law must be enforced. There are two incidents here. One is the assault and the other is obstruction of duty. These are not problems that can be resolved through mediation boards.
It's made inquiries as to why the investigation into this incident appears to be lethargic.
We have completed the investigation, and OIC Mawatagama and the team has visited the residence of the MP, but he has been absconding since the occurrence of the incident. We are going to arrest him, and facts have been reported to the court. Further investigations are being continued. We are not going to mitigate the nature of the offences, and we are going to take stern action against the wrongdoer.
The Politico responsible for this act of thuggery is still at large, and various excuses are being given. We kindly ask that these thugs be arrested within the legal framework which prevails in the country, and that they be produced in court.
The junior staff of a number of general hospitals and teaching hospitals across the country engaged in a 4-hour strike action, citing 5 demands. Meanwhile, an 8-day fast is also ongoing at the Colombo National Hospital, putting a further strain on the patients. I visited the National Hospital in Colombo earlier today to witness the situation firsthand.
The protesters called on authorities to pay heed to 5 demands, including the implementation of Circular 6 of 2006.
Many patients were inconvenienced, especially those who have travelled very far to receive medical help. I am standing outside Colombo National Hospital, where the strikes this morning has now been brought under control.
The 4-hour trade union action launched by the junior staff of the National Hospital disrupted day-to-day activities at the hospital. Due to the trade union action, patients were directed towards by their relatives or guardians. We have been here since morning. He underwent a bypass operation. They say they will start work after 12.
We came from Deniaya. Her mother is sick. Look at how much time has gone by. We have to go back to Deniaya and come again.
A similar situation was also witnessed at the Kaltara General Hospital as well as the Karapitia and Perua Denia teaching hospitals.
We came in the bus and have been seated here since morning. No one is issuing numbers and there isn't anyone to ask from. We came here without eating to get our blood checked.
These were the views expressed by a member of the trade union's Kandy branch on the inconvenience caused to patients.
We have supplied people for the emergency units and work is continuing there. Patients in the OPD have been inconvenienced. We are sorry about it. However, we are not responsible for it. It is the ministry officials that should be held responsible.
The 4-hour strike was launched in line with a fast which commenced opposite the National Hospital.
The Health Secretary granted us a meeting at 12 noon and we presented our 5 demands. The discussions ended unsuccessfully. The Health Minister, the health officials and the government should provide an answer to this issue. The ministry accepts that there was a delay in issuing salaries for those who received a promotion for which the procedure that was needed was adhered to according to Circular number 6 of 2006. But we have addressed this issue and we have received the grant which was approved by the Ministry of Finance to pay these salaries. This protest was conducted when such measures were taken by us. That is why we are saying that we have taken measures to resolve this matter.
You're with Newsfirst, coming up tonight.
It is critical that this is a very, very critical moment for Russia to step up.
Кратно призывали все противоборствующие стороны
No one has the right to use this tragedy to achieve their own selfish political goals.
Having those people in control of the site is a little like leaving criminals in control of a crime scene. So
උන්ගෙත් අවස්ථාවට ඇවිදින් හකාවිලා මම කල් වැදගෙන එයි ඒකල් උන්ගේ වැඩේ කරගත්තගෙන් පස්සේ බල්ලෝ තරමට ගණන් ගන්න නැහැ මහත්තයෝ අපි බල්ලෝ තරමට බල්ලටත් ඉන්ජු කියලා කතා කරනවා ඒ තරම්වත් හරි හිතට හරි දුකයි.
The anguish of a villager we came across in the Badulla district in the Uva province. Dry weather conditions have had a severe effect on the people in this area. With an election looming for the Uva Provincial Council, Newsfirst decided to visit areas in the province before the ballot.
Among the stops on our journey across the Badulla district were Kalugahakolaya and Kadapalla. The villagers who rely on agriculture for their livelihoods have been severely affected by the prevailing drought. This is the current state of the Maduru Oya, which only a few months ago sent forth gushing floodwaters.
This is one of the locations you come across en route to the village of Kalugahakolaya. What appears to be a field is in fact the Maduru Oya.
Let alone agriculture, people in this area are even finding it difficult to find water to drink.
There was water here about 2 to 3 months ago. A man was washed away once. He was found 3 or 4 days later.
The people have been made to dig holes in the dried up Maduru Oya in search of water. Adults bathe their children in these makeshift water holes, disregarding the risk of disease.
මේ මාදුරුවේ බලන්න වතුරු බින්දුවක් නැහැ නාන්නක් මදි බොණ්ඩක් නැහැ ඇඳ වෙනවා මේ මහත්යෝ කතා කරන්න කියන්නේ.
Look at the Maduru Oya. There isn't a drop of water. It is not enough to bathe and it is not enough to drink. We feel like crying when talking about this. Let alone eat, we need water to drink. When elections draw close, they come here. They call us uncle, brother, auntie and friend, and they come here. They put their hands above their heads and worship us when they come here. They promise us various things. When I went to school when I was 5 years old, we had to sit here and wait until the waters of the Maduru Oya receded. We face many hardships on this side of the Maduru Oya. They bring iron and stone here and put in cement and survey it. What are they trying to do? They want to build a bridge. They want bridgers for you. Why are they giving us this candy? All of us here have had our stomachs filled with the candy they give us. You will reap a portion of the benefits of the good we do if you could build some tube wells for these 2 villagers.
අපි කරන පින්වලෙන් කොටසක් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ඔබතුමාලට අයිති වෙයි මේකට අපිට නලලින් කීපයක් හරි මේ ගම් දෙකට ගහලා දෙන්න.
According to area residents, there's only one well to draw water for the 240 families residing in these 2 villages. These people who live amid 1,000 hardships still have hope for the future.
The Democratic Party convened a rally in Badulla yesterday.
Loans are being taken in the name of development. Foolish decisions are being made on projects. A harbour was built to the tune of $500 million. 2/3 of the money was stolen. The depth of the newly constructed harbour is insufficient. The ships are unable to dock. The people of Hambantota are now fishing in the harbour. Thereafter, an airport was built to the tune of 300 million rupees. 2/3 of the money allocated for the project also robbed. Let's start a Gandhian war. A war of non-violence, not a war with weapons. How can that be done? You will receive an opportunity to cast your franchise in Uva. This is how you can fulfill this responsibility. Opposition leader Ranil Wickremesinghe says that the people are yet to receive economic benefits even after the end of the war. He made this statement during an event held in Kandy yesterday.
The opposition leader who took part in a leaflet distribution campaign in the Madiha area in Galagedra under the Janajaya program also attended a meeting in the Girihagama area.
Earlier, they said that they cannot give any relief until the end of the war. This was the first time a government said they could not grant relief due to the war. Since 1983, various governments provided relief. It has been 5 years since the end of the war. Salaries have not increased. However, inflation and prices of goods have. There is no relief for the people. Corruption is rampant. On Thursday, we saw what they did to cover up corruption in the COC. The regime nearly threatened those MPs. They did it to hide corruption. Many people are asking when we will form a government. They are saying that we have had enough staying in the opposition for 20 years. Some say they need a new government which would rule the country justly. What needs to be done for this? We need to win the votes in the villages.
The Sri Lanka Communist Party has expressed regret over its decision to support the 18th Amendment, eliminating the two-term limit on the executive presidency. General Secretary of the party, Senior Minister D.E.W. Gunasekara, expressed this sentiment during a media briefing to raise awareness on the Communist Party's 20th anniversary celebration, which will be held in Ratnapura.
As soon as the war ended and international pressure began to be exerted on the country, that was the time to promote national unity. This was when it was introduced. There were varying views within our party, however, we finally decided to support it. However, before long we understood how this was going to be used, and we held a meeting and stated that the decision we took was wrong.
Sri Lankans and tourists visiting the country will be treated to a brand new experience come next month in the form of a floating market complex. Newsfirst visited.
The location I'm currently standing on is not a location that you could have visited a year ago. We are able to visit this location due to various changes made here. This is the country's very first floating market, which is located in close proximity to Bastion Mawata in Peta.
If you had come here a year ago, you would not have seen this waterway. These were closed shops. However, today the beautification of Bastion Mawata has led to this scene. When the country's first floating market complex is declared open here, it will undoubtedly prove to be a hive of activity. The complex, which is intended to raise the commercial and cultural value of Peta, will comprise of 92 shops. Some of the shops are being constructed within boats. The complex will also feature handicrafts, fruits and vegetables that are indigenous to Sri Lanka. Scenic locations have been allocated as food courts for visitors to the complex. The complex, which is being built by the Urban Development Authority with labour being provided by the Army and Navy, is intended to give a beautiful capital city to Sri Lanka's next generation.
This is due to be declared open next month. This is called the floating market, and items sold here are mostly local products. We have brought in traders who have been carrying out businesses in Peta itself. Everyone can witness the changes made to Colombo and the manner in which we are trying to add colour to it. This is the entry point to Colombo. We are hoping to make further changes to other areas as well.
You're watching your primetime news bulletin. Up next is Action TV.
More than half a century has now passed since the establishment of the Dorangaslanda Post Office. Although the post office offers a broad spectrum of services to the people, the notable feature of this post office is that it is a private shop owner who determines where the post office operates from.
They were staying on rent in my building. Then the building was damaged and they had nowhere to go. Since this was also an inconvenience for the people, I separated a section of my shop and gave it to them so they could use it as a post office. Today they are there on a rental basis.
The monthly rent for the space given by the shop owner for the Dorangaslanda post office is 5,000 rupees. While the post office handles the post that comes from 4 sub-post offices, it also employs 4 postmen to distribute posts to Dorangaslanda and surrounding areas. The 3 others who are employed here, including the postmaster, have to carry out their duties using an office space measuring 40 square feet. The senior citizens of 25 Grama Niladari divisions, who must come here once a month to receive welfare payments from the government, are worst affected by the situation. 10 years ago, a building belonging to the settlement was conferred upon the Postal Department in order to address these difficulties and to ensure that the Dodangaslan, the post office, is capable of providing modern services to the people of the area.
The building was used prior to this as an estate superintendent's bungalow. We could have renovated this when it was taken over by the Postal Department, but none of the authorities at the Postal Department took the initiative. They said these were old buildings and they let it fall into ruin.
Is it the intention of the Postal Department to sit idly until this building comes crumbling to the ground and continue paying rent for a pittance of space so they can build a new post office here? Postmaster General, this is over to you.
Data released by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka indicates that credit to the private sector from commercial banks slid 7.9 billion rupees in May this year from April. The central bank shows that the decline in pawning advances and repayments on short-term advances by the corporate sector were the main reason for the contraction.
Credit to the private sector from commercial banks in May this year amounted to 2,473.7 billion rupees. Central bank data indicates that the total credit to the private sector from commercial banks in April amounted to 2,481.6 billion rupees, representing a drop of 7.9 billion come May. While credit to the private sector has contracted in 4 of the first 5 months of the year, since December last year, there has been a drop of 60 billion rupees.
It is particularly intriguing that this demand has gone down, particularly when you see that interest rates have gone down. And when interest rates go down, particularly those who live on fixed incomes, those who are retired, who are probably getting 14% on their deposits are now getting 7%, and their income, monthly income has actually halved, and they are finding it extremely difficult. But then you would expect that when interest rates go down, that those who borrow, particularly businesses, will expand so that the economy will grow. But that's not happening either. One of the reasons for it is generally political stability. There is an inconsistency in policy, inconsistency on tax measures, and these all weigh in when you have to make decisions on expansion and new investments.
According to the Finance Ministry, the special commodity levy on a kilogram of imported sugar has been increased by 3 rupees. Accordingly, the special commodity levy on imported sugar will now stand at 28 rupees. The tax imposed on employees of state and private banks and financial institutions via Gazette Notice 1857/8 has been rescinded. The decision was arrived at following discussions held at Temple Trees this evening between the President and the Lanka Bank Employees Union. Accordingly, taxes on housing loans, disaster loans, vehicle loans, reclaiming medical bills, overtime payments and other allowances will be removed. In the meantime, a group of members from India's Bharatiya Janata Party or BJP, including the chairman of the BJP's Committee on Strategic Action and former Union Minister Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, met with President Mahinda Rajapaksa at Temple Trees this evening. Issuing a communique, the Presidential Media Unit said the group discussed a number of issues of bilateral and regional significance, including the functions carried out by the Indian Ocean Rim Association and Sri Lanka's strategic importance in relation to the work. President Rajapaksa also reportedly told the team of Sri Lanka's interest in establishing a centre of excellence in maritime and environmental studies. They are also reported to have discussed the post-war progress in Sri Lanka.
Newsfirst is the most trusted news website in Sri Lanka, using a multi-platform responsive layout for a richer user experience. Our news reporting is verified, unbiased, balanced and fearless. We are Sri Lanka's most powerful social media network. Millions trust Newsfirst. That's why we are #1. Access our content on the web, Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. Newsfirst, your life, our news.
Still in local news, an event held to commemorate the 150th birth anniversary of the late Anna Dharmapala, organised by the Sri Lanka Mahabodhi Society, was held in Japan yesterday.
The event was held at the Lankaji Vihari in Japan. The event was held under the guidance of the chairman of the Sri Lanka Mahabodhi Society and Chief Sanganayak in Japan, Venerable Banagala Upatissa Thera.
Anagarika Dharmapala was born on the 17th of September 1864. But since the late Dharmapala is being commemorated all over the world throughout this year, Mr. Saman Ataudehetti and I held discussions and decided that we should commence this in Japan. That is why we are holding this event today. We give our respects to Venerable Banagala Upatissa Thera for organising this important event to celebrate a very important personality.
Following the event, invitees were treated to a Sri Lankan meal.
A special function was held in the Suryavava area yesterday to mark the 21st death anniversary of late President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The event was held under the auspices of UNP parliamentarian Sajit Premadasa.
The event was held to make a monetary contribution to the Welfare Society of Habarathkala, Suryavava.
Civil Arakshaka Shestri 40,000කට
The government promised 40,000 civil defence force personnel that they would convert the daily wage into a permanent wage, that they would receive pension benefits. The employment of civil defence forces personnel was confirmed through an SMS, not a circular, and it has been restricted to it.
ඡන්දේ කාලේ දුන්නු SMS එකටම පමණක් සීමා වෙලා.
The surveying of lands in Arch Valley Jaffna was halted today as a result of public protest.
Lands belonging to 9 families in Arch Valley and lands that were owned by the cooperative society were previously held under military control. Area residents say that orders were issued prior to this for these lands to be acquired for military purposes. On the 2nd of June, when officials arrived here to survey the land, the task had been abandoned owing to public protest. Against this backdrop, officials returned to carry out the surveying today with a police security detail. An argument broke out between the officials and representatives of the Tamil National Alliance. Our reporters say that the officials had to abandon the task of surveying the land once again in the face of mounting public protest.
எங்களுக்கு அந்த காணிக்கு நீங்க உள்ளடலாம் உள்ளுக்கு போய் அளக்கலாம் என்று சொல்லி எங்களுக்கு இந்த காணிகளுக்கு பொறுப்பானால் வந்து
பிரதேச செயலர் வந்து இந்த ஏரியாக்கு காணிகளை அவர் வந்து ஒரு பிரைவேட் காணிக்கு பொறுப்பானவர் அல்ல, அரசாங்க காணிக்கு அவர் பொறுப்பானவர். அப்படி நீங்க அரசாங்க காணிக்கை போய் அளவுங்க, பிரைவேட் காணிக்கை வாரீங்க, ஆட்டையும் காணிக்கை வாரீங்க. அவருக்கு வந்து வரட்டும் என்ற வீட்டுக்குள்ள ஆறு உங்கள் பிரதேச தலைவரும் வரட்டும், அல்லது வனம் வரட்டும், எந்த காணிக்க வரதுக்கு ஆருக்கு இது இருக்கு? என்ன பகுதியா வருவீங்க எல்லாரும் வந்து? உத்தியோகத்தர்கள் உங்களோட உத்தியோகத்தை நாங்க மதிக்கிறோம், ஆனா அதுக்காக வந்து நீங்கள் இப்படியெல்லாம் செய்யறதை ஏற்றுக்கொள்ள முடியாது.
The people are not in agreement. They have taken steps to survey these lands without their approval and without following the legal procedures. We have been made to keep a close watch on these lands until the people are resettled. While we are attempting to brighten the future of our people, the government is working against this, against the people. We will always struggle against this. This is our demand. We strongly oppose the government invading this land without listening to our demand. These lands are not state property. Arch Valley is agrarian land. The farmers here grew onions and bought these lands through their earnings. The army has now acquired these lands. This is an army invasion. The army is also acquiring lands in other locations like this. They are attempting to turn our province into a military province. We do not know what steps they will take tomorrow. Nevertheless, we will muster all our forces to stand against this. The government officials, the minister and all other factions must stop taking the law into their own hands and must do these things legitimately and talk with the people and obtain their ideas. This is how the matter of these lands should be decided upon. But it is not just for them to not do any of this and act on a policy where they think they can stay wherever they want in the northern province. In Ratnapura, the president said the people's views would be sought when acquiring lands belonging to them. This view is not limited to Ratnapura alone but is relevant to the north as well. The president must state this clearly. When Newsfirst made inquiries from the Director of the Media Centre of the Ministry of Defence and Urban Development, Brigadier Ruan Wanigasuria, he said that considering the security concerns in the north, it is necessary to continue to maintain army camps in Arch Valley and surrounding areas. He said that an army camp has existed in Arch Valley since 1995 and that the 9 families currently residing there were not there then. Noting that the army would decide on the continuity and removal of the army camps, Brigadier Wanigasuria also noted that steps have been taken to remove an army camp located on 6.5 hectares in Noonaville. Staying in news from the north, a tense situation arose in the Dharmalingam area in Koropatana in Vaunia following a motor accident. According to the police media spokesperson's unit, the situation arose when a woman was knocked down by a police STF vehicle.
According to the police, the accident had occurred when the 35-year-old victim was on her way to work. Area residents gathered at the location following the accident and a tense situation arose. According to a correspondent in the area, the residents had insisted that the police STF vehicle not be moved from the location. The ASP of Vaunia district arrived at the scene with a group of police officers and managed to defuse the situation. According to the police media unit, investigations have been launched into the accident. The victim is currently receiving treatment at the Vaunia Base Hospital, according to its director.
UPFA Western Provincial Councillor Attorney at Law Susara Dinal attended a public rally in the Galagedra area yesterday.
The rally, which was organised by the Nil Balakaya, was also graced by parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa.
When the leaders of certain Western nations are looking at us in the wrong way, the countries which support us are doing a great deal of work towards uplifting our youth population. They are extending this support to the President. After 50 years, the President of China is coming to Sri Lanka. Today, the Prime Minister of Portugal is in our country. I believe that he is the first Portuguese state leader to come here since 1550. This is our foreign policy. As a government, we are doing all this for the benefit of the country. This government granted jobs to over 50,000 unemployed graduates last year. Party politics was not considered when these jobs were given. People from all political parties got jobs. The government even gave jobs to those who stayed outside universities holding placards. The President has given everyone the opportunity to criticize the government. When criticizing the government does not work in Sri Lanka, they take their criticism to Geneva, New York and to other Western nations. They are trying to get something done, at least through them.
The website of the Royal College Doctors Association was launched today at the Royal College Main Hall.
The event was graced by a distinguished gathering including Royal College Principal Upali Gunasekara. The medical fitness evaluation guidelines for Royal Sportsmen was also launched at the event. The guidelines were developed by the Royal College Doctors Association to screen Royal College sportsmen in line with the directive issued by the Ministry of Education, which makes it compulsory for athletes to undergo a physical fitness evaluation prior to participation in sports activities.
Our dedicated members talked about this and got down the international guidelines from various authorities and modified those instructions, the guidelines to screen the students suited for our local setup. So this is for the first time in this country, in a school history, we are launching this sort of a guidelines to medically evaluate the medical fitness of a sportsman, especially for the royal sportsman. So it was a pilot project. The health ministry actually came up and took up that project as a pilot project, and they are going to now expand it to the other schools as well.
I'm very happy to see that the Royal College Doctors Association has launched another new project. Thank you very much, Dr. Kennapon and your team. Your dedicated, committed team for all the good things that you are doing for your alma mater.
Newsfirst reporter Satasivam Gajan from Kalmune filed this report.
An unidentified group set fire to and destroyed a three-wheeler and 4 bicycles in the Kalmunai Kudi area today. The Kalmunai police are conducting further investigations.
Newsfirst report
The Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte says experts have arrived in Torres in Ukraine, where the remains of the victims of the Malaysia airplane crash are being stored. The 3 forensic scientists have been tasked with identifying the 196 bodies recovered. Meanwhile, the US Secretary of State John Kerry has laid out what he called overwhelming evidence of the Russian complicity in the shooting down of the flight, as an international horror deepened over the fate of the victims remain.
They are interfering with the evidence in the location. They have removed, we understand, some airplane parts. It is critical. This is a very, very critical moment for Russia to step up publicly and join in the effort in order to make sure there is a full-fledged investigation so no one will have doubt. No fingers will be pointed about conspiracies, about ideology and politics governing this. We want the facts.
However, Russian President Vladimir Putin fired back with a video statement posted on the Kremlin's official website early today, arguing that his country has been pushing for peace in Ukraine.
С уверенностью можно сказать, что если бы 28 июня
We have repeatedly called on all warring parties to immediately stop the bloodshed and to sit down at the negotiating table. We can confidently say that if the June 28th fighting in eastern Ukraine was not renewed, then this tragedy would not have happened for sure. No one should and no one has the right to use this tragedy to achieve their own selfish political agendas.
переговоров мирными, исключительно дипломатическими средствами.
Meanwhile, relatives of passengers passing through Kuala Lumpur International Airport expressed anger today at the way the bodies of the Ukraine crash victims were being handled, saying Russia was quote-unquote ultimately responsible for the fate of the 298 on-board Malaysia Airlines flight MH17. Furthermore, Australia's Prime Minister voiced deep concern that Russian-backed rebels remained in control of the crash site of a Malaysian airliner shot down over Ukraine, saying the site looked more like a, quote, garden cleanup, unquote, than a forensic investigation.
This is still an absolutely shambolic situation. It is an absolutely shambolic situation. It does look more like a garden clean-up than a forensic investigation. And there's no doubt that at the moment the site is under the control of the Russian-backed rebels, and given the almost certain culpability of the Russian-backed rebels in the downing of the aircraft, having those people in control of the site is a little like leaving criminals in control of a crime scene.
A total of 289 people were killed in the crash at Ukraine-Russia border on the 17th of this month after the Malaysia Airlines jetliner took off from Amsterdam's Schiphol, out of which 251 bodies have been recovered from the crash site so far. The plane was widely assumed to be shot down by a missile.
Israel has denied that one of its soldiers had been captured by Hamas in overnight fighting, as the death toll in the Gaza Strip passed 500. Al-Qassam Brigades, Hamas's armed wings, said Israeli soldier Shaul Aaron was captured late on Sunday, but Ron Prosser, Israel's ambassador to the UN, dismissed the claim, saying that those rumors were untrue.
More than 60 Palestinians and 13 Israeli soldiers were killed overnight in Gaza's Shujai neighborhood. The US State Department confirmed that 2 of the Israeli soldiers were US citizens. It remains unclear whether they held Israeli citizenship as well. Israel maintains that its offensive is targeting Hamas fighters in Gaza and a network of underground tunnels which they say are used to attack their troops and civilians. At least 508 Palestinians have been killed since the start of Israel's Operation Protective Edge on July 8, of which the UN says the majority were civilians. At least 20 Israelis, mostly soldiers, have also been killed. The UN Security Council has called for an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Palestinian militants in Gaza. Yesterday's late-night UN Security Council session was convened at the request of Jordan, which is understood to have proposed a strongly worded draft resolution for consideration. Secretary General Ban Ki-moon spoke out on the situation, describing Israel's operation in Sharjah as an atrocious action.
In a letter to the Badminton World Federation, Secretary of the Sri Lankan Badminton Association, Sampath Pieris, complains that the president of SLBA is acting according to his own wishes. This was also confirmed by the vice president of the SLBA, Palitha Hettiarachchi.
The secretary of the SLBA, in a letter to the Badminton World Federation, notes that Suraj Dandania has submitted the constitution document of the association to the World Federation without obtaining the approval of the SLBA General Committee. It also notes that members of the association who have been elected are being disregarded by its president. The secretary of the SLBA adds that this is not the only instance where such an incident occurred. He informs the Badminton World Federation that on most occasions Suraj Dandania takes decisions according to his whims and fancies. In his letter, Sampath Pieris adds that this should not occur when a board of elected members are present in the SLBA.
Sri Lanka Cricket CEO Ashley De Silva says that he did not pressure anyone to broadcast footage of South African bowler Vernon Philander engaging in ball tampering.
It's Vernon Philander.
Vernon Philander was accused of ball tampering on the third day of the first test between Sri Lanka and South Africa. A fine of 75% of his match fee was charged by the ICC for this offence. According to a release issued by the ICC, visuals of South African pacemen engaging in ball tampering was not broadcast. Foreign media reported that Cricket South African had exerted pressure on the broadcasters of the series not to broadcast these visuals. The media report goes on to state that Sri Lanka Cricket requested that these visuals be broadcast. It is in this backdrop that visuals of Vernon Philander engaging in ball tampering was broadcast. However, Sri Lanka Cricket has denied these media reports. When Sports First inquired into the matter, CEO of Sri Lanka Cricket, Ashley De Silva, noted that the ICC had taken the necessary action against the offence. He added that he had not pressured anyone to broadcast these visuals.
That was that.
And that's a wrap of tonight's bulletin. I'm Priyanka Busnet.
And I'm Shane Silva. Thanks a lot for joining us. Take care and good night.